writer, a speaker, a consultant facilitator on all things innovation and blockchain in particular. My role today for the next hour or 45 minutes is just to moderate a bit. And a brief introduction is I got into blockchain because of Stefan, actually. He was one of the people who got me into Ethereum about 5 years ago. So it's pretty cool to have him on this session. I'm sure he'll introduce himself, but I know him as one of the early proponents of Ethereum and smart contract programming. He's one of the sort of more established or experienced and respected smart contract programmers, I guess. That's where the bar is, Stefan. But no, he in that first wave of blockchain startups, he was founder of Swarm City, which was sort of the ambition to run a decentralized marketplace, where he actually was one of the earlier guys to program an ICO smart contracts. That was scary, but he also realized in that project how difficult decentralization can be, and that's why I got him on today, or that's why we invited him. I'm a Blockpool mentor as well, and the context was actually that through the mentoring program and through working with my startup, we came onto a very specific very specific problem. The concept of the startup I'm working with is about a privacy-proof voting app. And while they covered the privacy side, so zero-knowledge proof type of things, they got it covered. They ran into one of these unforeseen problems, technical problems, is that it's very hard to run these computer-heavy or computing-heavy frameworks on a mobile phone. Desktop or websites and all that work fine, but they ran into that problem. So one of the other mentors said, this might actually be a topic to cover on the bootcamp, because who knows, there might be other startups running into this whole issue of decentralization of storage and computing, because what the startup did is that they have to fix or create a solution themselves, hosting it themselves, which obviously takes away some of the benefits or the perceived benefits of the decentralization and the trustless values of blockchain. So that's why I got Stefan on to talk us a bit about decentralized computing, what he does with his new company, Avado. And the objective is to not let him just talk, but also to you, startup friends, about technical question. They can be pretty technical. Stefan can handle his technology, but also use case questions. How do you deal with decentralized storage? Is it a problem for you or not? And what are other use cases that you think this Avado way of looking at the problem can help? Anyway, let's start with the beginning and let Stefan introduce who he is, what decentralized storage and computing is, and what Avado does.
All right. Thank you, Geri, for the elaborate introduction already. So there's nothing much left for me to say with regards to my own intro. So my background is an IT background. So I'm a computer IT guy. Into blockchain from 2015, so on the very first steps of Ethereum, just after it was launched. I think we were one of the first people in Belgium, is by the way where I'm from, who are actually actively working on that. Back then, I worked for the city of Antwerp, where we were looking into how we can deploy blockchain or use blockchain as a solution for like coordination issues, because city, like the city of Antwerp, which is a medium-sized city, 500,000 inhabitants, to see how we could actually give some of the, let's say, governance power back to the citizens of the citizens themselves. So I think it was a pretty interesting idea to pursue. And so there we stumbled onto blockchain as a solution. So we really came from the side of that we sort of stumbled on blockchain to find a technical solution for a certain problem that we have, because a lot of these blockchain projects you see pop up, or certainly the industrial adoption of it, sort of tries to wrap blockchain around, or just tries to look for a problem where blockchain could fit into. So I think we need to get our priorities straight. Maybe just as an introduction on my how I came to be involved in this Avado story, is that while we were doing Swarm City, so that project that Geri mentioned, we stumbled upon the problem that we had two-sided markets. So where you had people who would supply certain services and people who would have a demand for for these services. But you have to match them together. And if you only had like the idea of blockchain, where it assists you in establishing trust between those, provided trust that those two people who don't know each other, so inherently don't have trust with each other to overcome that. Also, part of the decentralized solution was that you had a communication protocol. Back then it was called Whisper on Ethereum, which would allow us to send communication to these different mobile phone users on which run the dApp on it. So but the problem that we stumbled into is that there was like potentially a very large amount of data. And you should also, we would also have to consolidate that data. So one of the first markets we were looking into was the ride-sharing market. That ride-sharing market involved a lot of back and forth of data. So looking where the supply was, looking where the demand was, but that on a global scale. So in the end, we had to accumulate that data. So if you would look at like one city, like city of Berlin or city of London or city of Antwerp even, why not? If you want to have a view on that global data set, you will soon realize that just having a mobile phone with a dApp running on it will not cut it with regards to consolidating all that data. So that's why the idea grew like, oh, we need basically a set of nodes, a set of like CPUs that sort of can pre-process that data in a decentralized way, making sure not to compromise the whole idea of decentralization. And there we said, yeah, we should have some sort of a hardware platform that we can give to some citizens in the city who can consolidate data for their region and then serve it back to these dApps. And that was the idea where we said, yeah, okay, we should really make something out of that. And then at a certain point in time, it was in 2018, is where we actually started with the rolling out that idea into what is now called Avado. So let me maybe quickly screen share, then I can show you some things with regards to Avado. So I should go to present view. Do you see my screen now?
Yep.
Very well. Okay, so let me introduce Avado. First of all, so what we want to do, and yeah, again, this is not to shill this product in any way, it's just to explain where it comes from and just to give you some information on what it actually is, just to sort of kick off a discussion on that, whether it's a good idea or not, or what the potential use cases could be. So first of all, what is it, Avado? So it is plug and play hardware. So that means that if you buy this box, it comes pre-installed with an operating system that is pre-configured to run all kinds of decentralized applications. So more details about that later. We want to lower the barrier for people to participate in networks, and because often you hear the argument like, yeah, it's all difficult, you need very specialized hardware, it takes a lot of effort to set it up. So we wanted to change that and make it easy for everybody to run a node at home. And therefore, we worked a lot on the ease of use. So we've developed a UX that everybody can understand. So it sort of abstracts away most of the technicalities that are involved with these sort of complex decentralized applications. So what is it that we exactly sell? So it's specialized hardware where you can run, excuse me, one or multiple blockchains on. It has an easy UI and an easy way of monitoring the device. And then we also integrated what we call a dApp store, which is a whole array or a whole category of dApps that you can install on the box just by clicking on it. And later on, I will give a short demo of it so we can see what I'm talking about. It's also ready as a proof of stake validator node. So if you followed the news recently, look, this morning the Ethereum 2.0 deposit contract got filled up to its minimum threshold. So it means 1st of December we can start staking our ETH. Yay, yay. So we have solutions for that, so you can participate. So you can use it as an actual staking node for Ethereum. We also have an staking node for Avalanche network, which is another recently emerging blockchain, also using proof of stake. Then we coined the term smart mining, which is our idea of sort of the next version of mining, which would not just involve like adding blocks to a blockchain, but actually having apps available that rent out your hardware. As we have these three aspects: the bandwidth you can rent out, the storage on the device itself, and then its processing power. So all these things are things that might be valuable to somebody else, and they might actually compensate or reward you, of course, in crypto, for providing these services. And then there's also remote access. So as you can see on the antennas on the device, so it comes with an integrated access point, Wi-Fi access point, but it also has a VPN server configured internally.
Stefan, I'm just every now and again just going to drop in a question.
Sure.
What I didn't realize back in the day was that you always think about, oh yeah, blockchain, it runs decentralized, etc., etc. Was that you still, from your dApp, you had to connect to that blockchain through quite often what is Infura. And then there was, what was it, 2 weeks ago or last week, the Infura service kind of had a bit of a hiccup.
Yeah.
An impact on quite a few things. How does that fit in the solution that you've just described just there?
Yeah, there's maybe a little bit more on the why of this product later on in the slide deck, but just to quickly answer your question. So we really want to make you, let's say, sort of self-sovereign in that access to the Web3. So the whole concept of decentralization is that it's actually decentralized, and if you start to rely too much just because of the convenience on these centralized services like AWS, then it sort of defeats the whole purpose of decentralization, like indeed we have seen before. So the idea is here that this product is really what you would consider like in the early 90s. You would use a modem to access the internet. This could be like the equivalent, like it's your Web3 modem basically, which gives you sort of a springboard onto the Web3 with all the facilities that it needs. Also with the same the decentralized concepts, or sort of acknowledging these decentralized concepts without making it any more complex from a technical point of view. Because for you, it's in our ideal case, this product is really the equivalent of your Wi-Fi access point. So you just install it, you plug it in, and you forget that it's even there, and you just get the benefits of it.
Cool, keep going. Dear startups, you can always use the Q&A button on the right there in the bottom to start writing your questions, and we'll pick them up as and when they come in.
Yeah. So a couple of these unique selling points of Avalu is, first of all, we are blockchain agnostic, so we don't have any preference over a certain blockchain. So we support like a whole range of blockchains. Second thing is we make sure that all these packages that we release in that dApp store are kept up to date. So as you know, a lot of these projects are still in their infancy, and there are a lot of updates on these packages and like small changes that need to be done. We take care of that, and since we use also a decentralized way of distributing our packages themselves, we'll go into more detail on that later. It's very easy for us to distribute these new versions of apps on all these Avado boxes. We also have a decentralized cloud. We'll also show that to you a little later, which allows you to add your device to a sort of a cloud and share your software with others. And so one of the examples is if you would run an Ethereum node on your Avado, we have a solution where people can actually go to an endpoint, much like if you were going to Infura. But all these requests are then dispatched to all these boxes that are just sitting on in a residential location. And the load balancer also takes care of like adding new boxes that come on the network and removing those who are removed from the network. So that's also a very interesting use case. And then, of course, this smart mining, which gives an extra incentive to people to actually use that, because with the self-sovereignty that you get, you will need to depend on other people and other people that run a node at home to provide you a service. And that is actually of worth to you. So that means that you will be able to pay or will be willing to pay for that. But if you're at the receiving side of that, it's as simple as spinning up a couple of applications, and that box will actually start to pay itself back. So that's the whole concept of smart mining. So yeah, this is maybe, okay, this maybe looks a little chilly, but this is the Avado store. So we have 4 different models. We ship these boxes worldwide, and we allow people to pay using DAI, which is a stable coin pegged to the US dollar. So you basically pay in crypto US dollars there, or you can also buy them with credit card. So you see the prices there and also get a glimpse on the specifications. You can look them up on the site itself. If you look under the hood, so how does it actually work? So the box is it's basically a PC which runs a Linux operating system, and then we have a Docker container layer which contains some basic images which are already pre-installed when you buy the box. One of them is IPFS, an IPFS node. And I don't know, Gerry, I assume since we're all crypto startups here that I don't have to explain IPFS. Take that as a no. I think you're muted. So the IPFS is also the thing that we use for distributing our packages. So if we create a new package, then it is automatically published on IPFS. And since each of these Avado nodes contains its own IPFS node on it, it's very easy to distribute that and have these boxes download the latest versions of the packages. It also comes with a VPN server, a DNS server, and an admin UI, which is a web UI that you use to manage your box. Then the next layer is the dApp store to provide the packages. And in that dApp store, you will see different blockchains you can install, different network tools, and these incentivized applications, and so forth. And then lastly, we have an SDK, which allows you to also develop your own packages. So it's not limited to the stuff that we provide. If you run your own software, you can also use Avado as a distribution model for your dApp itself. Of course, we also play into the idea of the Avado culture and memes. So now currently we are running one of these meme actions also for Avalanche. We've done one a couple of months ago for Kusama as well, a Polkadot network. It was very funny to see all the interaction with the audience.
Stefan, maybe just in case IPFS is not understood by everybody, just maybe describe it quickly what it is, but also, and I think that is interesting, how you, Avado, relate to that from a hardware software point of view.
Yeah, so the IPFS idea is that there's no central server on hosting the content. So if you want to host a piece of content yourself, you're just publishing it on your own node, which results into a content hash. And the content hash is unique because it's literally the hash of whatever data you put on it. And the hashes are all unique for each piece of individual data. So what we can do is just create this whole, this even large Docker images, upload them to let's see, a seed server that we use, and then so which is just exposed to the IPFS network, and then it's sufficient for sort of a manifest to all these boxes that have a list of all the IPFS hashes that contain all these packages. So yeah. And like I say, it's just in line with the whole idea of decentralization, that you don't have to rely on us. So even if we would go out of business, that box and all the distribution of the existing apps will still continue. So you're not relying on us to stay afloat for running your own box. All right. So let's maybe continue. Some of the things I just created some sections in this presentation, what you can do with it from a user point of view. And then maybe later, but I don't have any specific slides on that. It might be interesting to discuss what benefits Avado could bring to publishers of dApps as well. So to these different projects. So different things you can do. You can run your own nodes, do the smart mining, the Rio clouds, and then staking. So let's just dive into these topics. So if you want to run your own nodes, so why on earth would you want to do that? So first of all, the basic idea of the internet was that it was designed to be decentralized. And also blockchain is also designed to be decentralized. But contrary to what the whole idea was, they see that we see that all of the dApps almost run a node on centralized servers like AWS or DigitalOcean. And we rely on these centralized services. And as Gerry also mentioned before, there are real dangers on running decentralized software using a backend that is hosted on centralized systems. And just recently, in the beginning of November, we had this outage in Fura where a lot of dApps were rendered useless basically because they all relied on this service which then broke down. So it was another pretty sight to see. So you see that it's not only a theoretical risk, it is an actual risk. So just again, why do you want to run your own node? So if you look at what makes a blockchain secure, it actually has two aspects on it. Usually people look at miners and validators because they actually progress the network. It's because they create the new blocks and they provide the security for double spending and all the rest of the blockchain concepts. But on the other hand, you have also validating nodes, which is a category that Avado falls into. So just to be clear, you cannot do proof of work mining with Avado. That's not the purpose of the box. But so what all the other boxes do is to verify these transactions and also provide the peer-to-peer network connectivity. And they also keep a copy of all confirmed transactions, so the ledger. So they also verify all the whole network. So they also do play a role in establishing the decentralization. So if you only have like a handful of miners and not have any validating nodes, your network would be less stable and less resilient to attacks. Now, again, so the debunking of that myth that running a node is difficult. So you have discussions all over the place that say, yeah, but the adoption likes because of that. So one of the aspects is that they say, yeah, you need a huge amount of disk space, and that's true. So Ethereum, you need more, and yeah, these numbers are already outdated. I think it's more in the ballpark figure of 600 gigabytes these days, and grows at a steady rate. And then other blockchains are popping up now, like the ETH 2.0 beacon chain. You also need to be online 24/7, and yeah, sometimes you need specific hardware. Now, yeah, okay, that's not specifically for it, but so these are some of the arguments that people bring to the table so that it's difficult. So, but maybe let's have a look at the interface. So, because I can talk all day about it, but let's see how it looks. So this is the UI. So I'm now connected through a VPN to a box that is just sitting here downstairs and so next to my router. So I just plugged it in. And then you see the home screen where you see some minimal statistics on the box, and then all the packages that I have currently running there. I also mentioned the dApp store. So let's look to that. So this is the dApp store, which is a directory with all kinds of apps. So currently it hosts about 30 different dApps that you can install. What you will see here are different categories. So you have blockchain nodes. So you have a few variations of Ethereum nodes that you can run. You can run Polkadot networks like Kusama network, but also a Bitcoin node or a Monero node. So all these blockchains are supported. So we need this sufficient. So for example, Bitcoin is not installed here. If I click the install button, I just get a description of what it is, and I just need to install it. It will start downloading it here from the IPFS node, and it will automatically start once this is done. So let's maybe not wait for that to happen. But let's take a look at the dApps that are installed here. So let's just try to pick one out. Let's see here, for example, the Avalanche node. So there's two ways you can access it. So the most obvious way is to just click the title here, and then it will redirect you. Oh no, this is a wrong one. Sorry. Let's go for another one. So for live demos, yeah. So this is maybe a good example of this sovereignty that people can have. So this box is, let me verify, it is running an Ethereum node. Yeah, so this the Ethereum node is running. It's also synchronized currently. So if I want to do crypto transactions, then I can just install this package, the My Crypto wallet. Let's give that a try. So now it's downloading and extracting the image, starting the package. So and that's it. So now I have a local copy of the My Crypto wallet on my box. If I go to configure package, and I get to a small onboarding wizard, which in this case is just a button that actually opens the wallet. And if I click on it, then I will come to, so you see here, mycrypto.avadopackage.com. Now Avado package is resolved locally here. So that's that. And so the interesting part now is that I am automatically, if I look at the settings, now I shouldn't go to the settings. So for, again, for the demo. Let me see. I was looking for the connection to the blockchain. Yeah, so I don't see it here right away. So sorry for that. But so this wallet is actually configured in such a way that it is actually connected to my local node. So the solution that it brings here is that it brings privacy to my transaction. So if you would use My Crypto from their website, it would connect you to the server that My Crypto provides or any of the other public services, thereby, for example, disclosing your IP address to them. And since they know which wallets you are interacting with, you might reveal more information about yourself than you want. While with this solution, you have a local copy of My Crypto. You also have a local node running, so nobody will eavesdrop on you or knows what wallets you are looking at, what you are looking into, or who you are transacting with, what transactions you are actually creating. Because if you create new blockchain network through your own nodes, so it means that all the other nodes will never know that you initiated that transaction. It will just be propagated from your node, so nobody will ever know where it came from. So that's that. Then you have like a connection screen where you can add new users to connect to the VPN. And then yeah, like support where you see some basic information about the system. And then a couple of these system packages, which I mentioned before. So yeah, that's how simple we are trying to make it for people to run these kinds of nodes. So let's go back to our slides here. So let's talk quickly about the smart mining. So we have currently two softwares or dApps on our system that allows you to rent out your hardware. First is the Mysterium VPN node, which is a decentralized VPN endpoint cloud. So that means that if you install that thing on your box, then you will become an endpoint for VPN traffic going over the Mysterium network. Now they are selling that to companies, or they're not selling that to individual people. So they also have a system where their traffic is whitelisted, so you don't run into trouble like serving illegal content or things that might be illegal in your country. So they do the whitelisting of that, and so you provide bandwidth and a VPN endpoint, which is valuable to others, and they pay you out in ETH. So as the longer you run the node and the more data you run over it, the more the higher your reward would be. Second one is the Tornado Cash Relayer. So for those of you who might not know Tornado Cash, it is a sort of an Ethereum coin mixer. but it relies on third parties to relay transactions for you. So you can deposit a fixed amount, let's say 1 Ether, into a smart contract. You will get some sort of a node, which is, by the way, also an implementation of a zero snark circuit. And so with that node, later on, you can withdraw that ETH back to a different wallet. But of course, it would make no sense that you actually initiate that transaction to withdraw it from that contract, because then you would reveal by doing that transaction another wallet of yours, and that sort of defeats the whole purpose. So you want to rely on third parties who do that those transactions for you. And Tornado Cash has a system built in where if you relay a transaction for someone else, that they will actually pay you a small percentage fee on that transaction. And that's the opportunity there, that you can earn a fee in tokens. And that's, of course, these kinds of applications are a totally different ballpark than, for example, participating in proof of stake, in the sense that you don't have to show up here with upfront capital. You can just start running this node, and by providing value in the form of bandwidth, in the form of your availability, in the case of Tornado Cash, is just rewarded because it's valuable for somebody else, and the smart contract systems take care of this payout. So it's really a new, whole new category of apps that you can benefit from. Next topic is the Rio Cloud. So the Rio is an acronym for Run Your Own. So Run Your Own Cloud. It's a solution to enable decentralized infrastructure. So the idea is that all these Avado boxes that run IPFS nodes, they might run other nodes like a Kusama node or a Bitcoin node or an Ethereum node, whatever. And they're currently all just connected to the internet. So we were thinking, how about if we create a package, which is a Rio client, which you can also download from our dApp store, that allows you to share the services that you're running on your box. So in this case, the screenshot you see, you can share your IPFS node gateway or pin IPFS content for other people. These are just a few examples because the list is pretty long and what you can share. And what we do then is we created an extra virtualization layer on the network, which creates a virtual LAN over the internet where your internet is not exposed. And so virtually, all these Avado boxes that join that network become one sort of virtual LAN over the internet, which is end-to-end encrypted. But so all these boxes, all of a sudden, they come together. And then we have the opportunity to put a load balancer in front of that, which is currently a centralized component. Since Avado, we are running those. But it could be very well possible that other people also start running these load balancers, and thereby also, again, creating a decentralized solution. So we're not potentially tapping the network. So we provide this load balanced monitoring and endpoints. And then Avado users, they can join the pool, as already said. And then on this load balancer, you will have the endpoints that you can connect to. So we are providing, for example, an endpoint, a WebSocket endpoint to the Kusama network. We provide a public IPFS gateway. And so each request that is sent to this endpoint, you can try it out yourself if you want right now, will be redirected to one of these Avado boxes at random. So with all the facilities that the load balancer bring. And then we've done the same thing with the Tornado Cash relayer. And that is really was one of the missing pieces of infrastructure to really make those decentralized relayers a success, because the people that are using Tornado Cash, they just want to go to the website of Tornado Cash. They want to select a relayer. So they basically want to have that automated, so they don't have to worry about, where is this friend of mine that runs this relayer that could do this for me? So it's free for everybody to run a relayer, but if you don't know how to find these relayers, then you're also you're stuck with the same problem. So we bring the convenience here that we can pool, and I think currently it floats between 22, 25 people that are currently running this kind of service for Tornado Cash. So you always have like somebody in the pool that is willing to do your transaction. But from the point of view of the user, they just have to connect to one endpoint, and they don't have to worry about, who will I be selecting and so forth. And they are, by just using that endpoint, they are presented to a whole pool in the background of 20 to 25 people that will serve your request. So yeah, so our endpoint tasks are to create the availability of the pool, spread the load of all the traffic that comes there. But we also keep track of the uptime of each individual participant in that network. So if you would download that Rio client, you will also see that you can put in a Ethereum address, like a reward address. And based on that address, we keep track what your participation in that pool over a certain period in time is. Which would allow us in the future, so we're not doing that right now, but this is on our roadmap, to also have, for example, archive nodes, which is also a valuable service which people gladly pay money for, to sell that as a subscription model, where you can actually use it just in the same way as you could use Infura. But then the money goes into a smart contract and then again distributed among all these Avado users that participate in the clouds, and then again pro rata to their contribution in that pool. Here's a view of the monitoring dashboards of the Avado. So there's you can see who is how many people are online. As you can see, there are no like IP addresses exposed here. We don't even know their IP addresses. And yeah, so the benefits for the end users is that you have a high uptime, so it's valuable. And with a smart contract, the individual Avado users can be rewarded based on their uptime and participation in the pool. So the launch has already been done here, but the reward model, the payout part is not here yet. Yeah, so we can quickly take a look at that too if you want. Let's look. If you go here to status.cloud, so these are our status page on that. So there you see an overview of all these pools. So you have Tornado Cash Relayer pool, where you see a number of participants here, Tornado Cash Relayer pool, an Ethereum RPC pool also just provided free from charge currently. And so here, if you click on test, for example, just it opens up a small widget that shows the current block height of the Ethereum blockchain connected to the endpoint that we provide. So this block height, so this data is currently provided by one random Avado user. So I don't even know who that user is. But that's the way it works, just to show that it does. Same for the IPFS node pools. We have like 26 nodes here running in the background, and so forth. So that's that. So let me go try and find my slides. Then I think it's the final point here about the staking. Yeah, so here's a video. I'm not going to bother you with this. We have a YouTube channel where you can see some of the tutorials that we have put out for the different packages to make it clear for everybody how it works. And this, for example, a video that just shows you how to stake on the ETH 2.0 network. The video I'm showing here is for the testnet. But right now we have the beacon chain already live for the live net, and probably tomorrow, the day after, we will also release the staking client itself, so everybody who participated in the deposit contract can also start staking from the 1st of December using Avado. Yeah, so that's about it what I wanted to tell. So we have different ways of contacting us through Telegram. We're pretty active on Twitter as well. Yeah, so that's sort of the intro on Avado.
Up for a second, but I've got a question here as well from someone, and I've got a few questions myself to bring it back to these startups as well. Maybe the more generic question from Kristaps. Kristaps asked, have you got any suggestions on storing real-time data in a decentralized manner from IoT devices? Obviously, they generate a lot of data. What are best practices or tips or do's and don'ts on that level of doing that in a decentralized way? If you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, what you could do, because we have, I cannot really talk too much about it because it's a partnership that we are just about to develop. But the idea there is, without disclosing what it's about, is that you would have these Avado boxes sitting at the edge. And so they are basically uploading their data to the box itself, to the IPFS server that is embedded. So by just like uploading is even an overstatement, because you're just putting it on your own box basically. But since then you have the hash of the data, you can easily distribute it to somebody else who needs to receive it or process it. And so that can be an interesting idea to keep your data, certainly with IoT, they try to keep all the data as much as possible at the edge of the network. Yeah, to do that, so it could be some sort of like an edge data collection device for IoT solutions. Although, honestly, speaking, is that maybe that's not the original intent of Avado, but nevertheless, it's a generic framework where you can install Docker images on. So there's no so the starting point for Avado is with a background of running decentralized applications within a context of blockchain. But as you saw also in the demonstration that I gave, it's not even necessary to run a blockchain, because the base system is just the IPFS node, because we need that for the package distribution, the admin view, and basically the Docker layer there. So if you want, you don't need to run any blockchain on Avado, actually.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. So imagine you're a startup and you're running an application that would benefit from having a small amount of people running a package, either on computing or on storage or whatever. Could you set that up on something like an Avado network? I buy 5 boxes, you program them and set them up in such a way that there's 5 trusted partners, even on a permissioned blockchain or on a permissioned app or whatever. Can they do that?
Yeah, sure. And certainly for permissioned applications, we also have a solution for that with Polkadot. You don't have to use Polkadot per se, but let me just explain the concept. So it's basically applying the same concept as we did with the Rio Cloud, but apply it to your own network. So with the Polkadot package, we've included a wizard that allows you, and unfortunately I cannot run through that whole demonstration right now, because you would need to have like 2 or 3 or 4 or like any number of boxes configured and ready to sort of bind them together. But with that same virtualization layer on the network, what is possible with Avado is that you say, okay, I want to run a consortium blockchain. And then you could say, okay, let's take 5 of these Avado boxes and we give them to each of the consortium partners. They would all install whatever blockchain layer they want to run, and then using that network, put sort of again one virtual LAN environment, and then you can bootstrap the network, which is private. Oh, sorry. So you could bind all these devices together by again putting them into a virtual network environment, much like as I explained with that Rio cloud. So you could basically create your own private cloud. And the benefit is that it is also end-to-end encrypted and it's permissioned. So it's a closed network by default. And so you have to invite other people into the network. So there will be one network master who is owner of the network, and they invite, let's say, 4 other boxes by just adding their network IDs. So it's not IP addresses anymore, it's network IDs to the network. And then automatically these boxes create virtual network interfaces. And then when that is set up, it is as if they were all in the same LAN. And then you can boot up your permission blockchain, and then you can have like this consortium running pretty easily. So we have a working implementation of that based on Polkadot, which is just available in our dApp store. So if you're interested in that, I could also show that, but not now because it requires some setup, of course.
Are there any more questions? You can type them in the Q&A. You can also just raise your hand and unmute and ask it in person. That's also possible. Chris Stubbs, in the meantime, about your question of real-time data, Stefan sort of gave you a concept. There's also another startup called Aleph, ALEPH, which is in that same vein of decentralized computing and decentralized storage, which is also aiming to or working on giving an answer to that issue of decentralized IoT problems.
Sorry, what was the name that you mentioned?
Aleph, ALEPH. I'll type it here in the answer.
Okay, thank you.
Check that out as well. There's a few things happening here. There you go. I think it's IM. Yeah. In the meantime, any other questions? So to summarize or to pick a few things. So yeah, why is it important to minimize the risk of the relying on centralized issues if you're working in a blockchain startup? Basically, things can go wrong. So run your own node, which is your meme, Stefan, of the Avado, is a good thing. No matter what blockchain you use or what hardware you use, whatever. So there's solutions for that. And the second thing I remember is that whole idea of sharing resources, that idea of a run your own cloud idea, which basically, if I understand it right, you could start building any application on that. But the concept is that you share the responsibility of computing or doing calculations or privacy or whatever. Do I understand that right?
Yeah, indeed. I think that is, and then maybe if we go more into the, let's say, the use cases for projects themselves. So what I haven't mentioned maybe up to now is the whole idea that there's some sort of a chicken and egg problem. And so you have different dApps or different software projects that let's generalize it, that offer software that you can download on their website. Now, so people need to download that software. And since we're talking about decentralized applications here, it is important that as many people as possible run these applications. But so there needs to be an incentive for people to run that application. And there's sort of where that chicken and egg problem is, that for the network, for the incentives to be established well enough, you need enough adoption. So you need a lot of people that run it. But it only becomes interesting for people to run it when a lot of other people already run it. So to get such a thing bootstrapped, it's not a trivial task. And so that's why we also see, and so we currently have a partnership with Hopper, and Hopper is a software package that has a decentralized messaging gateway. And so they provide basically peer-to-peer messaging service in a whole network on that. And so they partnered up with us to provide hardware, which comes with that Hopper package. So basically the software they're developing, pre-installed on an Avado box, branded to a Hopper box, so that we put the Hopper logo on the box and we sell it as a Hopper box, not as an Avado box for them. And so on their website, so if you go on their website, so now you have two options. So either it says download the software, it's open source software, it's for free, but then you have to sort of provision your own hardware. But if you're somehow invested in that project, so you're either a fan of the project or maybe you bought some of their project tokens and you want this system to succeed, and this project to succeed, but you don't have the technical skills to actually do that, then they also provide the option, so which is option B, buy a piece of hardware here with that thing pre-installed. So we started that a couple of months ago, and it was really successful. So I think, yeah, just to give a ballpark idea, I think now there's about 350 Avado boxes, which we've sold from end of 2018 up to now, which is not a huge number, of course, but also have to keep in mind that it's not the price for the hardware is not all that low. So it takes some consideration before people actually buy this. We also see a very big surge now with Ethereum 2.0 coming out. So everybody's like scrambling to find a hardware solution to run their validators on currently, which is a good thing for us. But if you look at Hopper, we also saw a pretty good spike in the amount of boxes that we sold through that partnership, which also demonstrated there is an actual demand also in these totally different communities that have never heard of Avado, that just think that it's a good idea to to also have that as an option, because like right now, people who don't have the technical skills to set up your software that you're creating, they're just left out. They're really sitting at the sideline and they cannot do anything. And by providing a hardware solution on your website itself, or you can just say, we do that. So basically, we are providing a distribution channel for dApps. That's how we like to put it. So we help apps actually get decentralized and get distributed more easy, or to a broader audience. I think certainly for dApp developers, like probably the most of the startups are here, this might be also relevant.
Yeah, if there's anyone in startups that think they have use cases where they go, oh yeah, that's actually a problem we run into or might run into or realize now that we run into in the future, because you have a centralized point of potential failure either on storage or computing, then drop us a message in the Q&A. In the meantime, I'm going to ask my last question. So Stefan, the use case that this conversation started with was the idea that my startup that I'm mentoring in Blockpool has a problem of running a zero knowledge proof computing framework on a mobile phone. Mm-hmm. So they decided to run it through a relayer service on their own. Now that makes it fragile. Either they go bust or it burns down or whatever. Just on a conceptual level, do you think there's a solution in then having something like Avado? We're not talking about just your product here, but something like Avado running 3, 4, 5, whatever boxes to run that relayer and share the responsibility in that, and to find then maybe an incentive structure for people to do it, or the client who's a real estate mobile offers it up as a service in these flats. Is there a solution there potentially?
Yeah, a couple of things. So first of all, we run on Intel architecture. So as you know, or might not know, the Intel has this concept of a secure enclave, which might be a solution for that. So I think it could be conceivable. Now, I must be truth be told that I'm not a ZK Snark specialist myself, but I could probably see a solution where you could create a package on your Avado that uses that secure enclave to actually do some of the ZK Snark work. But like I said, I'm not a specialist on that in that regards.
No, it's just rather than run it on your mobile phone and outsourcing it to one point, why not outsource it to 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever is necessary points?
Yeah, maybe also worth mentioning is that so we are actively involved in the Perpetual Powers of Tau, which is also an open source project where they do this phase 1 ceremonies for ZK Snarks with a very large set. Like I don't know all the technical details, but so it would allow you to set up this first phase of that ceremony. And so there are like already a lot of people that participated in that. That allows you to participate specifically in that ceremony. So right now, again, it's the same problem that they have. So they need to rally people that are interested in running that. But if you want to run that, like it runs for 2 days on your computer, ballpark figure. And it also takes, it needs about 150 gigabytes of disk space to run the challenge file, and then the response file, I think it's another 50 or 60 gigabytes or in that order of magnitude. And so again, people need to scramble to see, where do I still have a disk that fits that, and this and that. But these Avado boxes are really made for such a thing. So what we're working on together with them is to provide a package that would allow Avado users to just with one click say, okay, I want to participate voluntarily. So it's probably not incentivized, but voluntarily on that in that ceremony. And then it would automate all these tasks of downloading that challenge file, doing all the computation and uploading the result and so forth. And then the benefit for these people from Power of Tau is that they would all of a sudden, by us publishing that package, receive access to these 350 Avado users that are currently out there that might think that it's a nice idea or a nice gimmick to participate with it. And most of all, they don't have to explain anything to them. It's just they really have to just push a button like, I agree to participate in this ceremony, and all the rest is taken care of. And when their participation is over, they will just receive a message through their box saying like, oh, it's okay, you've participated, thank you. You can uninstall that app again. So that's also this benefit, I believe, with the dApp Store distribution model, that we can actually also open up like a pool of users to dApps. So if a dApp would say, I have an interesting thing that we can add to the dApp Store, yeah, so it's immediately exposed to all these people that are already running that infrastructure. And so that means that they are knowledgeable about the concepts of decentralization because they've gone out and bought this device, which, like I said, takes some consideration. So people don't just do that out of the blue. So it's also, I think, the good target audience for to sort of present those kind of apps too, because they're just interested in this evolution, this technology. And we make it easy for them. Yeah.
Cool. We're just going to have to wrap it up. I think final chance for anyone to answer a question or ask a question, sorry. Stays quiet over there. Right, then I'm going to wrap up by just summarizing it for me. So if you're a startup that is working with blockchain, it might be useful to think about how you access whatever blockchain you're doing, and if there's a point of failure, and maybe run your own hardware to do that. Or think about how, if you're into a little network of, if you're relying on computing power or on storage, think about how you take a little bit of control back by setting up networks to do that work for you, and not again outsource it all to either your own server or to AWS or Infura for the Ethereum blockchain. If there's any, it was quite deep and technical. If there's anyone wanting to pick that up or have any questions, you could always contact me through either through LinkedIn or my website. You'll if you Google me, you'll find me, or Stefan has got his contact details on the screen before, or had it on the screen before, so you contact him directly as well. Happy to hear your problems or your potential use cases and see if this is a problem for more than one startup, because I think it really fits into that paradigm of centralization versus decentralization. That's why I think this discussion or this viewpoint is so interesting and will be interesting for a long time to come, I think. Good, Stefan, thanks very much. Leonidas, I think I'll leave the last word for you to wrap it up, because it's the last session of.
So thank you very much, gentlemen, for this very interesting session. And with that session, we're reaching the end of the first day of the bootcamp. I hope to see you all tomorrow. We'll have some interesting topics